Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Briar Harvey. This is the Neurodiversity Media Network, and this is Voices of Neurodiversity. Today, we are joined with my amazing, which that way. I never know. It's like doing the hand dance. So, let me tell you about Lakshmia. We met in the Catalyst, which I have spoken about at length, but Lakshmia is really impeccable at understanding the ways that systems can have leverage applied to them. And it doesn't matter the system. She's going to tell you where the leverage points are. It's a little bit of magic, a little bit of luck, and it's all her, baby. So Lakshmia is officially now a career coach. Is that what your title is now?
Kinda. So I think my title is kind of like more of a career strategist because I actually do lay out a strategy based on what we talk about, and my own industry knowledge and like the things that you are saying and not saying. Like I can read in between the lines because I feel like coaching is just not all that I do. A lot of times I actually help folks create strategies that they can implement on their own and actually get some type of results that they're looking for. Like, you want to get more attention from recruiters? Okay, let's work backwards. You want to make another 50K with your next role? Okay, let's figure out how to do that. Like, I'm not going to sit and just be like, rah, 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 career. No, you are a person who has a life, who has goals and dreams, and your job or your career, whatever you're doing, should be able to fund that and then some, and also give you some type of fulfillment. I'm not saying that it has to fulfill you all the time. It's also okay to be like, look, I come here, I work, I do my job, I go home, I close the computer, whatever it is. That's fine too. It doesn't have to be your dream, but it should be funding something that is close to you and near dear to your heart outside of just your bills.
Like I said, y'all, leverage.
Very much so, yes.
This is just the personal variety of leverage. And we started having this conversation in the workroom the other day, and I was like, oh, I really, really, really need to do a show about this because part of knowing how you personally can create leverage is understanding the ways in which the people in the system around you, whether that is people who are collaborators, whether that is people who are competitors,
Mm-hmm.
are performing in the world. And we talk a lot about how to work with collaborators and how to ask for help. And we've had a bunch of shows about that. What we have not talked about is how to assess what your competition is doing
Mm-hmm.
and why it matters. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the conversation that I want to have today. And I want to start with the why. Why am I researching my competition?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is you want to see what's actually in the landscape, like what's actually out there. Like, you don't want to be in your own silo of like, I'm amazing, I do all the things, I'm the only person. You might be, but have you checked out at least some of your competition? I'm not expecting you to check out everyone because you don't have that type of time. But like, pick 3 to 5, depending on how big or narrow your niche is, and look at what they're doing. Like, are they running ads? If they are running ads, how are they running them? How are they communicating with their audience? Do they communicate with their audience? Because some folks and some brands don't do that either. Like, It's very important to know who you're competing with, because that's who your customers are going to be seeing, or your potential customers rather. That's who they're going to be seeing. And so you don't be like, oh, I didn't know that person existed. And you hear that all the time. Like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that was a thing. Did you read? Like, I mean, I ain't trying to be funny, but like, did you read and do any type of research? And for a lot of smaller business owners, the answer is no. They're like, I'm using this fire. I came up with this cool thing. I put it out there, and either they're really successful because they're lucky as hell, or it flops and they're like, why did it flop? And then when they come to me, I'm like, okay, did you do some market research? Well, I asked a couple of people in my personal life. That's not research, sweetie. That's not it. Have you talked to people who are actually interested in what you have to offer? Like, and have you, like, this is a real bold take. Have you actually talked to your competition? Because I actually recommend that too, if you can. Like, see what the internal processes are like. Don't steal. I'm not telling you to steal. I cannot stress that enough. Do not steal from them. Just see if you can get some type of feedback and some understanding about the mistakes or not mistakes that they're making, or the strides and stuff that they're taking, if they own market share, all that type of stuff. That's very important. And a lot of people don't take the time to do that, or they're like, oh, I'll get a VA to do it. You still need to do it yourself, period. Like, you need to do it, because you need to know, okay, this person's doing this, and this. These two things seem to be working out well for them. This is where they're slacking. Can I pick up the slack and use that for myself? Business can be collaborative, but unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it can also be competitive. So it is wise for you to figure out your competition. And if you don't see any competition, in my opinion, I would be a little worried, because maybe what you think you're offering is not what people want. And that could be why you don't have any competition, or is outdated and things like that. These are things that you'll find out in the research process. And I'm gonna throw those in there now. Research isn't one and done. It's continuous.
No.
Not all the time, but it's continuous.
You know, and I'm happy to be, like, as we go through this, the guinea pig here, because certainly what I am building is very unique in the way that it is structured. And also, it's a fucking newsletter, right? Like, are there any other media networks exactly like mine? No. Are there other media networks? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, there are. Are there other newsletters about neurodiversity? Tons of them, right? So it's always about being able to figure out where your vertical is and who's around you.
Absolutely. And I'll give like a even bigger example. So I know a lot of people have heard and seen the tech layoffs, right? That's going to change entrepreneurship as well, because there are a lot of people who are very talented and have resources now that are going to be launching in the marketplace because they've already done the research, because they work for these companies. They have what most people will consider an unfair advantage. And with all that being said and done, that means we're going to see a flood of different things that are innovative, and some of the stuff is also going to suck. You kind of have to see both, you know what I'm saying? And with that, a lot of the bigger companies that you guys see, I think, in my opinion, are also going to change. Some of them are going to get smaller. Some of them are going to get bigger. Some of them may no longer exist. And it's mostly, to be honest with you, because they don't do research and they don't listen to the research if it is done. Just because you were standing on business and doing well 100 years ago doesn't mean you're going to be able to do that now. Like, research is continuous, innovation is continuous, not because of capitalism per se, but just because of life. Like, a lot of things are coming up that are new, that are like newly discovered, and that's going to change the way that we operate, and that's how we do business. Like, a friend of mine had a conversation, and I had a conversation last night, and we talked about how this is feeling like 2016 when everyone was being innovative, because there was a large tech layoff then that nobody knew about. That's why you have a lot of innovation. The last time this happened was also like 2008. There was a lot of things happened that were innovative and also not so innovative. And that's kind of set the tone for this as well. As a small business owner, you can't only just think about yourself. You have to think about the impact on your users or your customers. You have to think about the impact on your employees and contractors and your local economy. If you don't research your competition, you're doing everyone I just mentioned a disservice. And if you are researching and ignoring the advice, you're doing everyone a disservice. And you're going to pay for it with losing customers and losing market share, like large amounts of those things. We see it online every day. You know what I'm saying? Like there are people who were just huge for like past few years, and now they're, I think the words were downscaling. By the way, y'all, that's not a real thing. They are downsizing. They are downsizing, not downscaling. They're trying to make it cute. They're trying to make it sexy. It ain't. They're downsizing, which may seem like a bad sign to you, but it's not. That means that the playing field is starting to level out again. So the stuff that they got big on, 10, 12 years ago, they can't use it no more. They got to roll with the punches, and you have an advantage. So now you can be like, ta-da, here I am. You were looking for me. You were looking for the solution. I have it here for you. Let's go. That's what you do. That's how you pay attention to the competition, and that's how you implement where they are slacking. It's not hard. It's really, really easy.
And something I talk about this a lot, and I'm sure you see this a lot. When a product or service has been around for a long time, eventually it will reach its threshold of usefulness. I'm looking
Yes.
at you, Evernote, and
Oh.
you have to either throw the whole thing away and start over in terms of code, or you have to throw the product away. And
I have a lot of feelings about that. Because outside of just my entrepreneurial endeavors, I'm also a product manager. And if you're not sure what a product manager is, it is simply someone that is managing all the bits and pieces of the tech, the customer experience, the user experience, all that stuff into a product that hopefully you can use. And I'm saying hopefully because sometimes that don't happen. Based on what you just mentioned, you know what I'm saying? Especially with the thing with Evernote. And even in me working in a corporate sector and things like that, big companies are not listening either, y'all. This is not just a small business issue. This is a business capitalism issue. A lot of the companies that you're like, wow, they were popping and this, that, and the third. The reason why they're not popping no more and all this, the layoffs and all this stuff happening, they are not listening to the market. They're not listening to their users. They are not listening, period. They're only trying to appease investors and shareholders and stockholders and stuff, which sometimes, if y'all are not aware, are also themselves. So keep that in mind if you're not familiar. So when you're sitting here like, dang, it seems like all these companies are doing layoffs, it's because they're not listening. Everyone wants to return to before pandemic times, and that ain't happening. That's like us trying to return back to the time before the Spanish flu. That ain't happening.
Also not happening. Correct.
What's done is done. All we can do is move forward and learn and then pivot from there. And so this is something that I think anyone can do. Like if you're looking at launching something right now, one, ask your audience if they're even interested. That'll save you so much heartache and headache. Two, if they're like, yes, but, listen to the part after the but. Don't tune them out. They're telling you everything you need to know up front. Get in that habit of incorporating that user feedback, customer feedback into your work instead of, I'm trying not to go on a rant, but it's about to happen, instead of letting your pride take over. Because a lot of times what you see around you is pride. It's a lot of pride. And it's like, well, I've been doing this. We've always done this. I don't care what you've always done. It ain't working. That means you need to fix it or pivot or revitalize or whatever the case may be. You got to do something else essentially. And change isn't like always negative. Like some of the best innovations of all time were from positive experiences. They're like, how can I elevate this to take it to the next level? And they're like, bam, here we go. And that's exactly what happens. So you can do the same thing, even in like a smaller increment. Like if your customers are like, hey, like I'm really trying to understand TikTok, and you teach social media. I'm trying to understand TikTok. Create something or collaborate with someone who's an expert to give to your audience so they can actually feel supported. That ain't gonna hurt you. Instead of saying, well, we've always done Facebook and that's all we're gonna do. Okay, keep messing up your bag. That's a you problem. That's your ego, that's your pride, and you won't shut the hell up and you're over here messing with your own money. That's a you problem. A lot of companies face this. Like as a product manager, some of the stuff I've had to go to bat for my customers have been insane. And there's simple requests. Like I've had customers ask me, hey, bright. It's too bright. Can y'all change the color or dim it because I can't see it? I had to go through the chain of command for them to change the color to a color we already had as approved brand color. I was like, this is not a good use of anyone's time that's involved. Like we could have done something else. We could have just swapped it and moved on. It didn't need 15 JIRA tickets and 45 people to change one color. It was not required. Like we didn't have to do that, but like that was how they wanted things done. And so something that could have took me personally 10 minutes to change, it took me 2 weeks. Please don't be like that. I can't stress that enough.
And so part of what I'm hearing you say is that doing your research in terms of both your competition and your collaborators helps you iterate faster.
Yes, it speeds it up tremendously because you're not guessing. You're not guessing. You know exactly what they need at the times that they need it. And of course, if you have like, limits in terms of like your budget or like time frame, your customers will understand if you have to move it. Communicate that to them. Like, hey, I appreciate your feedback. We're working on it. I'll let you know when it's on the horizon, or here's our roadmap. Now, I'm going to
Please
say
have
this.
a roadmap. For the love of God, have a roadmap.
I'm going to literally say exactly that. Have a roadmap. That goes for everyone. Like, this is not just for big companies. This is not just for tech. This is not just for physical products or cloud products or digital products. It's for everyone. Having a roadmap or a calendar, whatever the hell you want to call it, to make yourself feel better, will help you plan things appropriately and become a little more predictable. That it won't hurt. And even better, if you are a tech company, have your parts of your roadmap public with either anticipation dates or let your community vote on what they think is more important. If you are really that deadlocked internally, ask the people who are paying you. I cannot stress this enough. Ask the people who are paying you money. They will happily tell you exactly what the hell they need. Instead of you having to guess and push things off and things like that, put the roadmap out there. I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't like doing that because that means that holds me accountable. Okay, that means you have to be accountable. Like, dude, wow, that's a you problem. Again, your customers want accountability and transparency, and you too chicken to do it. How about you go ahead and just do it? It'll make everything better for everybody, period. And if you can't stick to the plan, maybe get some help.
Yeah, maybe just don't put specific dates on it.
Yeah, don't put like
Seasons
July 9th. Like,
also work. Like coming in summer, this thing.
yes. Coming in fall. Like, people just want to know if you're hearing them and if there's anything close to what they're looking for on the horizon. They don't need exact dates. I don't think they care that much. They just want to know if it's coming. And that doesn't mean you don't work on it. You still work on it in your sprints or however you do your thing. You still should put it out there, and you should still communicate that to your audience because they want to feel included. Nobody wants to feel like a number on a sheet anymore.
Okay. So some of this is audience research, and also how are we getting these pieces from competition research?
I'm going to make this as simple as possible. You can literally see your audience research from your competition if you look at what they're doing in their marketing efforts.
Say more.
So there's a couple of ways. I'm going to give y'all a very unusual way that I do it. If you see a conference coming up in your country, in your state, in your city, or whatever, and it's in your industry, go to the sponsor page. Look at who's sponsoring and if they have multiple levels. If they're in your industry and they're sponsoring, they are either a competitor or they have a competing product coming to the marketplace. And they have money because they're sponsoring stuff. So you're not comparing yourself to a broke competitor. You're comparing yourself to a competitor who has money and is investing into their product, their services, their business, whatever. This works on so many levels. And doesn't even be like a major conference or a major event. Even if it's like, a coffee chat or like a fireside chat. If you see that the event has sponsors and it's in your industry, congratulations, that is who you need to be researching. And if you can't pop up on them, at least creep on their website. At least get on their email list. I strongly recommend using a burner email. Do not use yours with your name in it. Because then they're going like, that's a little suspicious. Use a burner email that you use solely for market research for either your audience or for your competitors or for whatever. I've done that so much for so many clients. Like they were like, how'd you figure out all these companies? Well, I figured out who was sponsoring this event. This is the event you're going to be going to. These are the people who are offering stuff that are similar to yours. I came straight from that. People are not doing that, apparently. Like, because when I told this particular client, she was very baffled that I pulled it. And I was actually spot on because lo and behold, a lot of times those sponsors have a special tent or a special booth or a special table, or they are a special speaker. They will tell their business because they are paying to do so. They will tell you everything you are looking for and everything you need to know because they want people to know about it. So if you can do that, do it. If you know that there's a specific conference that's every April or every July or every November, see who's sponsoring it. Just see. And you're like, oh, snap, wait, why is that company randomly sponsoring it? They're not normally in this space. And then you find out they're about to launch a product that's directly in competition with yours. And then you get all your answers. Like you're getting answers in real time without necessarily having to talk to them. So if you can't talk to them, that's cool. But this is one of the ways that I've done this. And it works really well because people are usually excited to announce what they're about to do. Maybe get in the habit of doing it yourself. You know what I'm saying?
And I want to, it's a short hop, but it's equally important here. What does opposition research, competitor research look like when you are job hunting?
Oh, man. So this is about to get real fun. If you don't know, I am on LinkedIn quite a bit. And on LinkedIn, there are people who are sometimes influencers. I use that term loosely. There are also people who are leading whole departments, whole divisions, whole companies. They will share job roles. Sometimes they'll even tell you if their competition is hiring or not. Or they will say, hey, since you worked at a competing company here and they're having layoffs, come fly over here. It's public information now. So it's literally public when you're sitting there looking for jobs. Everybody tells their business on LinkedIn because so many people are trying to be the it girl, the it guy, or the it them. They want to go viral. So they're going to spill all of their tea. Use it to your advantage. Another bonus tip that I'll give a job seeker. If you see someone who has worked at a FANG company and they announce their departure, however you see fit, look in the comments. There's always people talking about their companies are hiring. There are probably companies you've never heard of, but they are very popular in the industries that they're in. Creep, apply. Creep and apply. That's literally one of the easiest ways of doing it. creep on them and apply. Like, it's right there, right there.
And I think one of the problems here, and I've identified this for myself before, Lakshmi, people don't know how to Google. People don't
Oh,
know how to search,
yeah.
and they don't know when you say go creep, how specifically do I search for this kind of stuff on both LinkedIn and Google?
Well, it's a little easier to do on LinkedIn versus Google, but on LinkedIn, if you are a job seeker specifically, I'll talk about it from a business perspective too. But if you're a job seeker and you are scrolling your timeline, you see people that are like posting about various jobs and companies, I would literally click on the company, even if it's not a job that you're necessarily interested in, but you're interested in the company. Click on it, go to their jobs page, and see what else they got. Because usually they're not just hiring for one thing, they're usually hiring for several things. And do your research on the company. I recommend looking on Glassdoor. If you're on Indeed, Indeed has it for official company pages now that you can also see anonymous reviews. You can also go on Blind. Blind is a really good app because there's no identifying information. People talk about that type of stuff there as well. So those are ways you can creep and also be anonymous if you want. From a business perspective, on Google, it's actually really easy for business owners. You can literally type in whatever you're doing. And of course, the very first thing, unless you have like a really sophisticated ad blocker, is going to be ads. Sometimes they're relevant, sometimes they're not. That's on the people who are setting them up, though. Look on the first page and see what comes up, the combination of words, the combinations of things and phrases that come up. Do you also come up with those things? Hell, do you come up at all? Like, I don't care if you're on the first page or the 15 page of Google, you need to be coming up somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So if you can simply Google whatever you're doing and all of your opposition and your competitors come up, you need to be doing the same shit that they're doing. Like, I'm very straight to the hip, y'all. So keep that in mind. Do exactly what they're doing. So if they are running Google ads, guess what? Suck it up and run some Google ads. You already know the keywords because you typed them in yourself. That's how it came up. Like, it's very, very straightforward and simple in that way. If you are afraid of running ads, this is going to sound real bad. I'm going to need for you to stop being so scared of spending money and investing. Scared money don't make money. So investing in advertising, however that looks to you, it has to be relevant to your industry, is essential because you need to collect data. And so, Briar, a lot of what we're talking about, you can get data from this for yourself and for your company or like your job search, whatever it is. You're collecting data, and you can put this on your resume. You're collecting data, doing market research, competitive research, all that jazz, and quantifying it in a way that is simple for regular old humans to understand. That's literally what this is. You're collecting data, but you're also implementing the information that you're getting from this data. Like, you're not doing this in a silo. So don't sit there late at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, researching your competition just because. That's weird. You know what I'm saying? And not in a good way. Do it in a healthy fashion. Take the information as you see fit, and then figure out how to apply it into your business if it's applicable. Or avoid what they're doing, because some folks are just doing really bad things, and you can kind of tell too. So if you're putting in these words and bad things come up first, that's a sign as well. Just do the work. Like, I know a lot of people don't want to do it. They're just like, I just want to put the thing out there and it's just going to take off. It might, but can you at least give yourself a little bit of a cushion by doing the research ahead of time so you're not embarrassed?
And this is important because if you haven't done the research, whether it's in a job search or in your business, you won't know who to go and talk to when it matters. And I feel like for the job search, especially, how many people are getting jobs from clicking that button on LinkedIn?
You'll be surprised. I know this is probably an opposite answer that most people are not going to expect. So when you see the number of applicants, specifically on LinkedIn, I can't talk about it from another platform. They count people who click the button. It does not count people who complete the application because they can't track that. Unless it's all like the built-in form. If it's the easy apply with questions, then yes, you can track that. If they're just click on it, they're considered an applicant. So sometimes you'll see a role that has 1,000 applicants. That doesn't mean it has 1,000 applicants. It may only have 10 applicants because people went to the job like, oh no, this is not what I thought it was, and then close out. It doesn't track it that well. So LinkedIn needs to fix that because that's not a good tracking mechanism. It's not good for data. It's very deceiving for everyone involved. So if you are in a good niche or a very specific niche, you're probably getting a job from it. But if you're like, I'm applying for vague thing here, you're not going to get the job because everybody's going for vague thing here. You kind of have to create your own path, so to speak. And I'm not talking about becoming a brand because a lot of people think that's what I'm talking about. That's not it. I'm talking about, I'll use myself as an example. I am a product manager. I can go and do cybersecurity. I can do SaaS. I can do cloud. The likelihood of me just doing a generic product manager role is slim because everybody's going to go for that because they're like, ooh, easy because it's simple. Nah, I'd rather go for something a little more specialized because it's less competition. I'm going to use this phrase properly, Briar. I'm going to go to the correct blue ocean and get away from the sharks. I'm always going to do that because I'm like, why would I want to have to fight all these people or fight all these sharks when there's literally like somebody over there like, actually, if you just came over here, I'll talk to you. I would just go do that. It's less easier. It's less bloody. It's less messy. I can just go and be. I don't have to put on a facade because I'm afraid that I'm going to be attacked by the person next to me. This goes for business too. If you're being generic, you're going to struggle. And your market research, your competitive analysis, your customer research, it will tell you if you're being too generic or if you're being too specialized. Like, you'll get those answers. Whether you want to hear them or not, that's on you, but you need to hear them anyway. Period. So if you're starting, I wish you the best of luck. I don't think you're going to be thriving the way that you want to because it's too generic. But if you're doing marketing for yoga studios or wellness areas or wellness businesses, now we cook with some grease because now you have an audience that is like, oh, you specifically target me. You must understand my struggles and what I need to do to thrive in my job or my business. That's that slight pivot. That's how you separate yourself from your competition, but still be relevant. So when they start talking about the big folks, you start coming up in there too. They're like, who is that? Where'd they come from? They've been here this whole time, but they've been killing the game because they chose a niche that we all decided to ignore.
And that's the other part of it, right? Without having done the research, you don't know who you need to network with.
Exactly. And that's how you sit there floundering at networking events because you're at the wrong one. You're like, hey, no one here understands what I'm talking about. Did you read? I know that sounds bad, but did you read before you got there? Did you pre-register or did you just like, oh, I'm going to show up on vibes? Maybe just a pinch of reading will save so much trouble for so many people, honestly.
Okay, so we've talked about how to do the research. We've talked about some of the net benefits. I want to talk about how to track and store and keep these things. It doesn't have to be system specific, but
Right.
I have the memory of an Apple IIe. So when I'm keeping track of things, what should I be tracking?
Well, hopefully you are tracking an upgrade because what?
No doubt.
But what you should be tracking is the name of the competitor, obviously, or names, because sometimes they have multiple names, and that sometimes messes folks up. Track what their niche is, at least one or two signature offers. That could be products, services, whatever. And me personally, possibly because I'm petty, whoever's in charge, I track that. And if you are looking for like system recommendations, I'm very much old school in the way that like I'm older than what I am in the way I do things. I would write it out. I would put it in like a little Google Doc. I would even put it in a Google Sheet. But if spreadsheets freak you out, Google Docs is a very, very beautiful starting point. Just put it in there, but put dates. Put dates so you know the last time you checked in on them. And also, this is a really fun hack. Set up a Google alert. So anytime their name pops up in media at all, good, bad, neutral, indifferent, set up a Google alert for them and whoever's in charge. So the president of the company, the managing director, the CEO, chairman of the board, whatever. Set up a Google alert in that burner account I told you about earlier, and you will get all the information that you need and then some. And then on top of that, you don't have to worry about it because then you just scroll into your inbox and be like, oh, so they released that today.
Yeah, that's the difference between active research and passive research. And you can and should go out and do the active research to start.
Yes.
But the passive research of, now that I know what I'm looking for, just feed it all to my inbox for me to read when it is convenient for me is absolutely a game changer.
Absolutely. And then also, if you happen to have like a team or team members, if they have like a joint inbox, set the alerts to go there so that if you are not paying attention to your inbox, someone is, and like, hey, so and so, this person just released this new product. I heard on this podcast episode they just did. So that times with our launch. So this is what we need to do. Like, it's simple things like that people don't look at. Like, you know, Samsung and Apple have their announcement events every year. If you're over here trying to create a new phone or a new electronic that they cover, you should have alerts on them and the people in charge. You should. And so when their announcements come up, you're not surprised. You're like, oh wait, it's that time of year again. You should know already because you've been tracking it for a minute. So it doesn't have to be those type of like large size companies. I say do it for anyone that you're competing with that has a presence and that presents themselves as a public figure and or a company. If they are private, I wouldn't recommend doing this. But for most entrepreneurs, this should work. Also, make sure you put a Google alert on yourself. Mm-hmm. Same thing. So you can see what other people see when you make moves in media or anything else that you're doing. I've been doing this for years. And I was like, wow, that's how I found out when I got featured in Essence. I found out before the writer told me because I got the Google alert. I was like, oh, snap, that's what's up. And then she emailed me like 10 minutes later. And that's how she was like, oh, you already knew? I'm like, yeah, I had an alert for myself. Because I knew it was coming.
And that's the piece that's important, right? The reason that we are having this conversation at all is that rather than being reactive,
mm-hmm.
you have done the work to be able to take action on real-time information. And there is such a huge difference, right?
Absolutely. Because honestly, you shouldn't be blindsided that much when it comes to like your competitors and what they're doing. Even ironically enough, if your competitors doing layoffs, if they're large enough, I forgot the name of the system, but if you're in the United States, there is a system that lets you know about mass layoffs in the United States and those particular states as well. If you see that your competitor is about to lay off 10% of their staff in this specific division, you already know what's about to happen. So either you need to pivot what you're doing or be prepared to pick up the slack that they are leaving on the table.
Yeah, and it's not that hard is what I'm hearing.
No.
Relatively. So, okay, because we don't want to be the 2 a.m. stalkers, right?
No.
How much time should I actually be devoting to this on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis, whatever?
what I would suggest from a business perspective, I would do the beginning of the quarter and the last week of the quarter. However you do quarters in your industry. Because then you can see what's about to come up and either what's about to land or what else is about to come up, or if something is changing, or if there's like a scandal, whatever. These things usually happen beginning of the quarter or at the very end of the quarter. So I would recommend that if you're like a one person business, put it as like set it as a reminder ahead of time that you're devoting this particular time, this particular week, or this particular day on research, and you update it. If it helps, I will have one running document in Google Docs or Notion or whatever you use with dates, like month and date, and then or a quarter and date. And you can see the progression of either your competitors or yourself or both. So I want to do it all the time. If you're in the industry that has like a lot of products, you may have to do it a little more frequently, but like you don't need to spend 20 hours a week on research. So if you are one of those entrepreneurs, cut that out. If no one's told you, cut it out. Like you need to be making money. Okay. You doing this research is not making you money right now.
And I think that's reassuring because hearing that I have to do opposition research on top of all of these other things that I'm supposed to be managing, like my budget and contracts and invoices, and also the client work, makes a lot of people go absolutely insane.
Yes.
So this is not hard, is what
No.
we are telling you, and it will change the game for you.
Yes. And also it'll help you stay in the moment instead of just like in your head about like a launch or like all these other things that you have to do. If you find out that your competition surprise dropped an entire product line, I would either be very terrified or very motivated. It truly depends on the situation and how I feel that day. You should also be able to mimic this if you needed to, whatever it is in your industry. So if your competition is like, hey, every week we're releasing a podcast episode, well, then maybe you need to also release a podcast episode similarly because your audience is already in the mood and already in the state to listen to the thing that y'all are doing. Why make it harder for yourself? It's right there. It's literally right there. And a lot of people don't look at it that way. They're just like, everything is so secretive. No, I mean, unless you're working for like the government, and even then it depends. It's not that secretive. It really isn't. You're not reinventing the wheel here. You're either improving it or you're adding to it.
Yeah, that's such an important distinction because we don't want to be reinventing the wheel. And the number of people that I know who are doing that on the daily because they have not done this kind of research, right?
And that's how you end up spinning your wheels. And you're like, I'll describe it this way. That's how you see people like, oh, I've spent all this money on XYZ and I have nothing to show for it. And it's like, okay, cool. Did you implement anything that you bought? Well, no, because I felt like I needed this, and this. How do you know that if you didn't implement anything? You're just collecting things like, like Thanos in the rings. Maybe implement and figure out what happens and see what happens, collect that data, and then decide if you need more help or if you need to invest in something else. To be honest with you, the answer is probably no, you don't. Keep doing what you're doing. Go make some money. Like if this goes for both the job seekers and also for the business owners, go make some money. Tweaking your resume 11 times to compete with a thing person that isn't even applying for jobs is not a good use of your time. Stay on the path for yourself. And like, obviously doing your research doesn't mean you're not, staying true to yourself. That means you are. That means you are cognizant and you're aware of what's happening right now. But like a lot of people just kind of get stuck in that rut of like spending money on things because it's trendy or it's in their face, instead of just like do the market research, create whatever it is, implement, track it for a certain amount of time, see what happens, and then build from that. It's a lot simpler than a lot of folks have made it, but that's also because capitalism has made things complicated.
And I think this is key because when you are doing this research, you're not copying what other people are doing.
No,
You are seeing how to iterate for yourself.
absolutely. Absolutely. And then on top of that, honestly, a lot of people don't understand this particular thing. So if your competition is doing a lot of bad stuff and not thriving, don't do the stuff that they're doing. I'm going to give another
It's
example
that
around this one.
simple.
I'm going to give another example for this one. So if you are a lash girly, like you are putting on lashes for the people, making them look cute or whatever, if your competition is cussing out their leads on the booking page, don't do that. Because if you are the opposite, if you're giving them like a cleaner language and things like that and making them feel welcome, you can take the competition's stuff from them right in their face just by being kind. Like simple things like that. So if your competition is just rude, nasty, they're going viral for the wrong reasons, this is one of those times to deviate away. Be like, oh, I could just have a clean page and be kind to my customers and not do all these other things. I can thrive very quickly. You can make a lot of money just being nice, just being kind, just doing the work. That's just one example because I see a lot of folks, they'll copy the bad stuff and just keep building on that and then wonder why there's a burnout and there's a lack of trust from their audience, a lack of trust from their customers. They don't have repeat customers because you suck. Like you and your competition suck. And it's okay to say that. Like until you are looking to improve and grow and develop, you are going to suck. So stay on your toes. Ask your customers for feedback. Listen to the people who are paying you in money. Like I know that sounds like weird, but like if they're not paying you, I would literally I'll still collect their feedback, but I may not prioritize it over a customer that's like, hey, I'm in your product right now, or hey, I'm trying to get my lashes in right now. Here are the things that I'm looking for. Like there's a way of actually doing this stuff. So it's simple, easy, and actually kind of pleasant.
Yeah, and the net result of listening to your people is, at least in my experience, that you make something so amazing for them that they say, "Oh my God, how did you know?"
Yep. Or like you did that. Like when you're getting compliments from your releases and your product drops or your services, you're on the right path. Like just let's make that very clear. If you're hearing crickets, you are not on the right path. Because like people love to talk, like especially if they're happy about something, they're going to tell you if they are enjoying whatever it is that you're offering them. And if they're not, it's okay to say, why are you not enjoying this? I'm not saying that the customer is always right because that's not what this conversation is about. But like maybe just listen with your human ears and figure out if it's something that is a you thing to fix or if it's them. Because it may not be you. Sometimes they just want to be heard. And just like you're a soul person, you want to be heard. Make sure that when you are dealing with your customers or dealing with the public at all, that you are listening to people and not just always talking over them.
All right. So I want to wrap this up by I started with leverage. I want to end with leverage.
Yeah.
The leverage points of doing your opposition research means that you are iterating faster, you are creating things that your people definitely want,
Absolutely.
and you are building from a position of action rather than reaction.
Yes, and since you're voting from action, if you do need to create a reaction plan, you can with a clear mind and a clear heart. And also, if you're doing this right, you should also make some money. Let's make that very clear. You should be making some money. Like you're doing all the things and you're still not making money, there's something else. It's not the research. It's not any of the stuff we're talking about. It's something else. And that's when you may need to bring in some outside support.
All right. So, what kind of outside support do you provide, Lakshmia?
So I provide a lot of interesting ways of supporting people. I work with folks one on one, usually job seekers, trying to help them figure out their career path. Like, do they really want that promotion, or do they just want recognition, or do they want just more money, or whatever? Um, I also am launching a 30-day career boot camp. That's actually be happening in March, and the page will be up probably next week because I had to switch platforms. And in that, I'm going to be working with folks in a group setting, and we're going to be figuring out what we should be doing. What does our resume look like? Is our LinkedIn up to par? What's a pay band? Like, various things that people hear. They're like, yeah, I totally understand. And then you're like, actually, no, I don't, but no one will tell me. All those questions that you've been trying to ask or Google on the low, we are going to cover in this boot camp. And then if you enjoy the boot camp, you can decide to work with me one-on-one. Or I might also offer like a small group long-term situation as well, because I really enjoy helping job seekers look for jobs. But on the flip side, I also work with entrepreneurs. Like, if you're looking for some help in, like, you're launching a digital product, I actually will be your product manager, which is different from a project manager. If you're unsure which one you
for
need,
God's sake, yes, it is so different.
They're so different. If you're not sure which one you need, feel free to inbox me and ask. Tell me your situation, and I can tell you if you need a project manager, VA, an OBM, a program manager, whatever. I'm well versed in all of that, and I will happily answer your question before you spend any money on anything or anybody, because I want you to be well informed. I'm an educator through and through, no matter what I'm doing. So feel free to inbox me. I'm also going to have my Top Mate page up as well. So if you want to book a quick call just to get a couple of questions answered, I have that available as well.
And we will have the links to all of those things in the show notes.
Absolutely.
So, where can people find you?
You can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn right now. I am Lakshmia Marie on LinkedIn. You will see my face literally on my LinkedIn page. On my banner, it says, according to Lakshmia. That is me. I am her. I am the only Lakshmia on LinkedIn. I checked. I'm the only one. So you can just connect with me there. You can either like send me a follow request, like or be in my network, or just follow the page. I don't care. Whatever you're comfortable doing.
And y'all, the whole point here is for you to get comfortable with asking questions
Yes.
about how it works, what works, and what you need. And we talk about this a lot here on the network, but if you don't know, my job is to provide you with the experts who can answer these questions for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. And y'all, we will see you again next time on the Neurodiversity Media Network. If you're just streaming this in some random place, you can find us at the neurodiversitymedianetwork.com, and we would love to see you there.